Welcome to the NBA Closing Time Show on Pub Sports Radio, Friday, January 22nd. We've got the whole gang back with us today. Conor, Max, Skee, Profit, ready to break down this NBA card. It's a huge card, 11 games on tap, and that's with 2 games canceled. Still 11 games on the schedule, even though Washington, Milwaukee, and Memphis, Portland have been postponed. The rest of the card looks like it's a go. Let's start top of the rotation. We've got the Chicago Bulls taking on the Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte 3-point home favorites, 228 the total. Sometimes you just got to say a team's been too good to me that I shouldn't have bet against them the other night after cashing with them so much. And that was me with Chicago the other night against Houston, as the Bulls end up taking care of business against the Rockets. And now they're back on the road facing this Charlotte Hornets team. Look, Chicago's been brilliant on the road from a point spread standpoint. 7-2 against the number, equal record 6-8. Obviously home court devalued now because there's no fans in any of these games. Chicago's been a road warrior, and from a spread perspective, I've been on them a bunch, and I'm going to be riding them again here at getting 3.5 in this game against Charlotte. I like what I'm seeing right now from this Bulls team offensively. Obviously, defensively, they've got some issues at times still, but man, when you got Kobe White, Zach LaVine, and some of these guys playing as well as they are offensively, Lauri Markkanen, and now Wendell Carter, it looks like, is out tonight for the Bulls, but they've got some backup secondary plans. They're going to give probably Markkanen more time. Looks like they might go, according to Billy Donovan, a little more small ball 5 lineup tonight in this game against Charlotte. So with this total being where it is, 228, I'd expect extreme pace here. I'd probably play it over the total. So I'm looking Bulls. I'm looking over in this game if I were to bet it. Skee, we'll start with you. Chicago, Charlotte.
Well, Charlotte hasn't been playing that much pace. They've been playing much of a slower game, and they've went under all of their home games this year. Chicago, I do agree, is going to want to play very fast. And I think both teams have been pretty solid offensively. You're going to have to worry about Chicago's defense, but that's the only way I can look. You can't be laying points with Charlotte. They're not a good team, in my opinion, and they're 1-3 against the spread as a favorite. The Bulls, as a road dog, that's where they've had a lot of their success. I have them at 7-1 against the spread their last 8.
2 games.
So they've been playing better basketball than the Hornets. That's the way I look in this game.
All right, looking at the Bulls plus the points as well. C-Max, Chicago, Charlotte.
I'm with you guys. Right now I just can't lay even 3 with the Hornets. I can't lay them at home. It'd be the Bulls or pass. This wasn't my favorite look on the card, and I don't know if I'm gonna get to and bet it, but I'm still thinking about it. It's got to be the Bulls. They played so well on the road. I think it catches up to them, but not maybe now. Maybe later on in the year, they start to get tired, more back-to-back, stuff like that. But I'm with you guys. I'd lean with the points with the Bulls, and I'd lean a little bit towards the over, 228.
All right, we've got Orlando and Indiana next up. Pacers 4-point home favorites, 217.5 the total in this game. Indiana certainly coming back home. They've been on the road for a little bit as well, this Pacers team. They went through Sacramento, Golden State, Portland Clippers. They did return home, I should say, the other day, Wednesday night against Dallas. They lost 124 to 112. Good call by Skee Profit. He liked the Mavericks in that game. They got the job done there. Miles Turner didn't play, hand injury, questionable tonight. And the way I'm looking at this game is I think if Miles Turner's in, I like Indiana -4. I trust them more than Orlando. I think it's a good bounce back spot for the Pacers tonight. I'd like Turner to be in there. Orlando, look, come on. I mean, talk about fortunate to win the last game. I mean, they were down by 20 at one point against lowly Minnesota, and they roared all the way back with a Cole Anthony buzzer beater to somehow beat the Timberwolves. Tells you how bad the T-Wolves are, blowing a 20-point lead at home to this Orlando team. An Orlando team that's been battling injuries all year. That's, I think, not a great basketball team by any stretch. I think they're walking in to playing this Indiana team at the wrong time. But I'd like Turner to be in there. And if he doesn't play tonight for the Pacers, I'm going to pivot away from Indiana and look more toward the over in this game, believe it or not, at 217.5. You look at Turner and the pace in the Dallas game without him on the floor. I mean, they got into the 240s. Indiana played a smaller lineup. They went up and down the floor. The number of possessions went up significantly from the Indiana side of things. And I think we're going to see that again if Turner doesn't go. So it's really truly dependent which direction I go in this game, depending on Turner's status. If he's in, I like Indiana. If he's out, I'm probably going to go over the total here, 217.5. Skee, what's your thoughts? Magic versus Pacers.
I wouldn't argue with that. I mean, you saw what the Dallas Mavericks did. He's a big part of their. I mean, he scores for them, Turner, but he plays defense too. And Mavericks were able to eat in the paint. So the Magic, that's what they want to do. They want to eat in the paint. So if he's out, I think they'll have success. And I also think, I mean, Orlando's defense hasn't been great. So I think the Pacers will find a way to score as well. So I would agree with the look towards the over. And as far as the side, in general, I like to look towards teams to bounce back after they're embarrassed uh, at home, especially as a dog. So I would lean towards Indiana, but if Turner's out, I'm out. And the last thing I'll say is Orlando versus good teams, 55% win teams or better. That's not really where I want them. They're 2-6 against the spread this year. Granted, they are healthier. They have Fournier back in the lineup. They have Ennis. So they're healthier than they have been. But Pacers usually beat up on the lower competition. So I lean Pacers as long as Turner's in, and I like the look on the over.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things relying on Turner. I think if Turner's in, I like Indiana minus the 4. If he's out, I like the over. And also if he's out from a prop standpoint, get involved with guys like Aaron Gordon, get involved with guys like Nikola Vucevic for this Orlando team. Their guys in particular near the rim in that paint area could have a nice night production-wise at the offensive end of the basketball court. C-Mac, what do you think here, Orlando, Indiana?
I'm with you guys. I think it's real big on Turner because I think this is a good bounce back spot. Skee said it well there. Pacers beat up on teams like the Magic. And at this short price, I look towards them here. The Turner's the big key because he's their big guy. You know, they with Warren out, they're better, but they were out with Warren last year, you know, a lot of the time and still won. And they're out with him. So that's not that big, but I think Turner's pretty big down below. So it rides on him as well. I don't trust the Magic. They're still, I know Fournier's back, like you said, Skee. They're still banged up. I don't love them. I lean with the Pacers, and I'm just going to wait on Turner. If he's in, I like him. I think they can cover the short number, 3.5, 4.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I'm thinking. I'm thinking he's in, I like Indiana. He's out, I like the over with the Magic and the Pacers. We've got Houston and Detroit. Detroit Pistons, 3-point home favorites, 215 the total. What a not a fun experience watching the last Pistons game play out as someone that had Detroit +5 and gave it as a best bet on this show on Wednesday. What are you going to do? You know, you have a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter against Atlanta, can't hold it. And sure enough, as soon as that game went into overtime, I was getting worried, and Atlanta ends up winning by 8. Just a hideous beat if you had Detroit in that game. So they'll be looking to bounce back. I'm not sure they will here. I know Houston's banged up, and Skee said the other day, maybe we got to take a step back and not bet the Rockets till they get John Wall, among others, back on the floor for this Rockets team. But I've got to be inclined to, if I'm playing this game, I'm looking to take points here with Houston in this spot. We know we're still got question marks with them. John Wall's not going to play again tonight. Christian Wood's been downgraded to out. You know, Daniel House and Kevin Porter out, Dante Exum out. So there are still some key guys on this team out. Wood and Wall are obviously the two big ones right now for the Rockets. But if you think I'm coming back to betting Detroit after the other night and now laying points with them, you can forget it. And they're coming back home off, you know, being on the road. So for me, it's Houston +3 or you leave the game alone, in my opinion. Skee, what do you think here? Houston, Detroit.
Yeah, if Wood was in, I would love Houston a lot more. But and if they had John Wall, I'd really smash him. But it's another team. I don't want to lay points with Detroit. I don't think they're a good team at all. And I'm not willing to trust them to win by margin. So I'll see if the Rockets can step it up here. Maybe after a couple of games, they've gotten it together. I'll lean with the Rockets +3. And if I have to look at the total, I trust both teams' defense more than I trust the offense. I know Detroit plays at an extremely slow pace, and I would lean under.
Yeah, exactly. We're seeing Rockets games stay under. Detroit, it only went over because of overtime against Atlanta. That game was on pace to go under the total. The under got blown up because of overtime, you know, against the Atlanta Hawks the other night. So I agree. The problem is the people have already gotten there with the under. It opened 218. It's 214.5, 215 now. So I missed out on it, but I agree with your sentiment. It probably will be a little bit of a lower scoring game. Conor, what do you think here?
I'm with you. I think I got to lean under here as well. Detroit does play slow. I like Detroit not in this spot laying points. I've picked my spots with them with the Bucks, Suns, Heat. I laid off the other night and I was kicking myself, then it went to OT and they didn't cover. And I was like, holy shit. And I know you had it. But man, I was like, oh, that's a shitty beat.
Awful. Our buddy Razor Sharp had it. I could hear him bitching about it during the horse racing show on 2 that night. It was brutal.
Yeah.
Awful.
I know. Yeah. But yeah, I can't lay 3 with Detroit. There's just no way. They're not. I want to be getting points with them in multiple, 5 or more. And the Rockets are just banged up. The line just kind of right away looked funky, even because Wood's out and all that. I still don't think the Pistons should be 3. I think it should just be a pick 'em. I just don't love this game at all. It was a pass for me. But I lean a little bit towards that under 215.
Yeah, the under definitely a popular choice here as it's moved down 3 points already, 3.5 points from the opener. Boston and Philly, we've got a rematch because they played the other night. They're back at it, the same 2 teams head-to-head one more time. Sixers 4.5-point home favorites here, 221.5 the total. Totals come down a little bit. We know Jason Tatum is not going to play again for the Celtics tonight. He remains out. Other than that, though, they're relatively going to have most of their pieces on the floor. They're going to have Smart. They're going to have Jaylen Brown. They're going to have their front court's finally healthy again. Thompson, Williams, and Daniel Tice. They're all available for Brad Stevens tonight. So everybody's there and accounted for. I got again. I don't always knee jerk to the revenge spot and the revenge angle here, but I'm going to do that tonight with Boston here plus the points. I think it's a good situation. And it was back and forth that game the other night, Sixers and Celtics. Boston had the lead. Philly went on a run, tied it. Boston took the lead again, and then it was just a really good fourth quarter for Philly and a really poor fourth quarter for Boston. That was the difference in the end. Sixers not only come back to win, but get the cover as well in that game. I'll go with Boston here, getting the 4.5 to try to make a better account of themselves here tonight. I think Kemba, too, is probably going to have a good game, I think, for the Celtics in this one. Skee, what do you like here with Boston Philly Part 2?
Yeah, if they had Jason Tatum, I would be interested in the Boston side, but it's hard for me to get there without him. Sixers get Seth Curry back, so I think that's a big boost.
Yes.
They were able to win without him, but him and Embiid, I think, have the best net rating combined on the team. So he's a big part of their success, and I like him in the lineup. Sixers they're 4-1 against the spread versus 55% win teams are greater. And the Celtics, they haven't been bad either. They're 4-2. But I just think the Sixers, if they were on the road, I would be nervous. But being at the house, that's where I expect them to win. And that's where I would go in this game.
He is back. Yes, indeed, Seth Curry. Mike Scott's the only key cog for the Sixers that's out tonight. Everybody else is healthy, including Seth Curry, who's actually proven to be one of the more underrated and important free agent acquisitions this season in the NBA for any single team. There's no question. There was a perimeter. There was just a void, on the perimeter for the Sixers after last season. And boy, they've gone a long way to shore up that void and plug that hole, getting a guy like Seth Curry here on the Sixers team. Conor, what do you think here with Boston and Philly?
Yeah, I had Boston the other night, and it was back and forth. Just a bad last 8 minutes. Sixers just, took control, and Boston just kind of fell apart. I like a little bit Boston, a small play with them with the points here. Just without Tatum, like Skee said, it's just tough to really, really endorse this because the Sixers are finally healthy. They're at home. But I'm going to take a shot because the revenge, just small. Boston with the points. And I'd lick towards the under 221 just a little bit as well. I think this one's going to be feisty. And I think it'll stay under the total.
All right. Dennis, thank you for the kind words about my apparently my good radio voice. I don't know about that. I mean, you compare my voice to Dan Schulman. I mean, there's no Dan Schulman has the ultimate voice.
Yeah,
that guy's voice is just, I'd bring him. He lives in Toronto, so he's only an hour away. I should call him up if I ever have a family member pass away. I'd want Dan Schulman to recite the eulogy for someone in my family when they pass away. He'd just have that great delivery, great powerful voice. Doesn't have to scream and yell. His voice is outstanding. But Dennis, I appreciate that. It's just I can't hold a candle my voice to his. That's a voice right there, Dan Schulman. Miami and Toronto. Speaking of Toronto, 2.5 point home favorites. They are at home here, 221.5 the total here. The Raptors looked like they were turning things around. 2 straight wins against Charlotte, win against Dallas. Somehow against a banged up and beleaguered Heat team, end up spitting the bit the other night, the Raptors. And we'll see now they're in revenge mode, trying to bounce back here against this Heat team. That you look at this team, it's a mash unit. I mean, Avery Bradley out, Butler's still out. Tyler Hero may be a no-go tonight. Goran Dragic, we'll see if he's in there. A lot of key players out for this Heat team, potentially still for this game tonight. Meanwhile, though, you flip it around to the Toronto Raptors side of the equation, and they've got some injury concerns of their own going into this game tonight. Specifically, Pascal Siakam, questionable due to a groin injury. He's been dealing with this thing for several games in a row, and yet he hasn't missed any time during this stretch where he's had the nagging groin problems. But apparently it's got a little bit worse after the game on Wednesday. He didn't practice yesterday, so there's concerns about whether he's going to be available tonight. And Kyle Lowry dealing with some foot soreness problems, questionable for this game as well. And, if he's going to go 2 for 12 like he did the other night against Miami, maybe you better sit him down because maybe that foot was playing a part in that shooting effort for Kyle Lowry the other night against Miami. So, as much as I'd like to back Toronto here, trying to avenge the loss the other night, there's too many concerns here and questions with Lowry's status, with Siakam's status. Toronto laying points has not necessarily been a great betting proposition this year. So right now it's a lean to Toronto, but it's not anything I'm close to betting yet. So right now, just a pass at this point in time. Skee, what do you think with Heat Raptors?
Not a game that I love. I don't really like playing Miami games this year. It's just a toss-up with whoever's in the lineup, kind of. So that's how I feel, at least. And if I have to play, though, I don't trust anybody on the Miami Heat to play defense. And Toronto, they haven't been – I know they're not in Toronto anymore this year, but they haven't been playing very much defense either. Miami probably plays a little bit faster pace than Toronto, but I can look no other way but to the over.
Yeah, the over definitely, especially if Lowry's in particular, the over definitely, I'd like that. He's good on defense too, but having him to run the offense from the point, that might be enough to get me there with the over if he's in the lineup tonight for the Raptors. Conor, what do you think here? Miami, Toronto.
Yeah, with all these guys, game time decisions is just, and I don't want to back the Raptors, at their supposed home. I think the more that goes, this season's going to just be a wash for them. I don't think these guys like going to Tampa, going
I think
there.
That's truth to that. I really believe that. I'm seeing them kind of hint at that as well, that read between the line quotes from some of these guys that, it's not the same as being in Toronto. You read between the lines. Yeah. They're trying to say this sucks, without saying it.
Without saying it. Yeah. They want to be home. But not there in Tampa. I don't like anything. I was on the over in the first game, and Toronto couldn't score. But I'm going right back to it. Skee nailed it. As long as some of these guys are going to be in, Siakam, I think he will be. Dragic, Hero, I think Hero will play. I'm on the over 221. Both teams haven't played well defensively. Miami, especially on the road, gives up a ton of points. I think that one, they just couldn't make a bucket. Like you said, Lowry was 2 of 12. They couldn't score anything. The Raptors couldn't make anything. But I'm going back to it. I like the over 221 here.
That was a bit of a bad beat on the over if you took the over in the first Miami-Toronto game, because that game was flying over the total and on pace for the longest time. And then you had those, death to the over in the fourth quarter, which sometimes can happen in the NBA. And it happened the other night with Miami-Toronto. It ended at 213, just short of that total, because the fourth quarter, it stopped. The scoring just grinded to a halt. But I wouldn't talk anyone out of trying to go back to the well with it here tonight. Brooklyn and Cleveland now. We've got Brooklyn 6.5 point road favorites, 223 the total. This total's gotten bet down. Cleveland's taken a lot of money, a lot of reaction, of course, to Durant being out, confirmed for tonight's game for the Nets. And what did I say the other night with Cleveland winning, of course, that crazy game? What was it? Double overtime against Brooklyn. I said it on Wednesday. Kyrie comes back. Chemistry screwed up. Things aren't going to work for Brooklyn. And that's That's exactly what we saw for much of that game against the Cavaliers the other night, which was good. I mean, that's what made up for Detroit the other night, was taking Cleveland plus 11. And sure enough, they get the outright win. I'd certainly lean a little to Cleveland again here. But the problem is the number's not as good. You're only getting 6.5 now. Maybe Brooklyn, kind of lollygagged and went through the motions a little bit against Cleveland after beating Milwaukee the game before. You would think they're going to take the Cavs a little bit more seriously this time around, but I'm certainly not laying 6.5 with Brooklyn. It would still be Cleveland or nothing for me in this game. And look, Colin Sexton being back means a whole hell of a lot for the Cavaliers. Yeah. We saw it the last game. He was outstanding. Talk about what a return to the lineup coming off an injury for Colin Sexton. He had a hell of a game for the Cavaliers in that one. And again, now you get all three guys in there, and Irving. Now all of a sudden you take Durant out, and now chemistry's screwed up again. And Steve Nash has to adjust rotations, and now you're going to rely more on Irving and Harden going into this. I mean, it's difficult to function and execute at a high level when the rotations and the lineups and guys are in and out like musical chairs from one night to the next. No way am I laying 6.5 with Brooklyn. I can't say I love this spot or this number as much as I liked it the other night with Cleveland, but for me, it would still be Cavaliers or nothing in this game. Skee, what about you? Brooklyn, Cleveland, a rematch here as well.
I think when you have two guys out of the three, the Brooklyn Nets will still be okay. There was no chemistry when Harden first came, the first game, and they won that game perfectly fine, and they scored like it was no problem. With Kyrie here and Harden in the lineup, I think we'll see that same exact thing, especially losing to this team the last game and kind of how it was hyped up. And, everybody's going to blow it out of proportion when it's the Nets. But I think the Nets respond tonight, and I think you're getting a discount now that KD's out. Not to say that he's not a big deal, but to get 6.5 on the Nets, that's where I'll be interested. The number I have for the game is closer to 7.5. So I trust the Nets more offensively. I still think that they've been rebounding the ball better. And the only thing is their defense has been shot. So if they can still outscore the Cavaliers, I think they'll cover this number, and I think they can do that.
All right, like in Brooklyn here, minus 6.5 in a bounce back spot against the Cavs. Conor, where are you going with this one? Nets versus Cavs.
I think Skee's right though. With one of these guys being out, they just play better. When they're all three of them until they
that could be it.
Really,
maybe 2 of the 3, you're fine. 3 out of the 3, then that's when they're going to struggle and have chemistry issues and who's holding the ball, who's taking the shot, who's passing, who's making all the key plays at key moments. So that's going to be the dynamic to watch for Brooklyn the rest of the season, really. 1 guy into the big 3, 2 guys into the big 3, all 3 of the big 3. What's their point spread record in those 3 instances? I bet you'll see some different records for sure.
Yeah, I think it'll take a while. I think it's going to take a while, and it might not even work when all 3 are in. We'll see how the drama unfolds, especially with these 3 guys. They can be, have a little drama behind them. So I like the Nets bounce back and win this, but I just don't like the number at 6. For some reason, I think the Cavs can keep it close. Like Skee said, I like it better with these 2 guys, with 2 of them in. But I don't know. I loved it the other day. The Cavs catching 11. Sexton, with him back and 11, my eyes got big. He makes their offense roll, the Cavs. So I think they could keep it close. This was a hard pass. At first, I leaned Nets just to the bounce back, but right at 6.5, 7, I think that'd be maybe a tough one to cover. But I lean the Nets.
All right, a lean to Brooklyn for Conor Mack. Atlanta, Minnesota. We've got the Atlanta Hawks, 4.5-point road favorites up to -6. The total 225.5 in this game. I think touching Minnesota is toxic going into this game, at least in my opinion, after just what they did the other night against Orlando. That was hideous. If you thought Detroit, what they did against Atlanta was bad, Minnesota against Orlando was 10 times worse. That was a brutal loss. I don't trust this team to bounce back strong. I can't say, though, I'm in love with laying 6 on the road with Atlanta. That's not typically, the type of team, the type of point spread role that I like the Hawks in. They did have a nice rally the troops comeback win against Detroit the other night in overtime, which hurt me dearly. But nevertheless, from their standpoint, it was a nice comeback win in that one over the Pistons. Still a team that goes in and out of playing consistent defense. Even their offense prior to the comeback against Detroit, they were struggling to shoot in that game until the fourth quarter when they exploded. And before that, we've talked about it, Skee and I, on the show in the past, that Atlanta's team offensively has not been efficient or shooting the percentages we all thought, including at times Trae Young, who's had some dismal games at times this year for the Hawks. So it's tricky from a side perspective. It's also tricky from a totals perspective because Atlanta had that 9-game under the total streak going into the Detroit game, and the streak only got snapped because that game went to overtime. It would have been 10 in a row to the under if that game ends in regulation. So, it's a lot of people liking this over clearly with the total going up. And I get it from a Minnesota standpoint. That's a team that's not playing much defense. That's up to 225.5 now. But it's getting up there now that it's 225.5 for an Atlanta team that's still 9-1 to the under in their last 10 games. And the totals have clearly been too inflated for the Hawks for the last couple of weeks. So it's a tough game all around for me. I'm staying out of it as of right now. Skee, what's your thoughts here? Hawks, Timberwolves.
Yeah, I think until Gallinari and Bogdanovich, until they're both back, I kind of want to look towards Atlanta unders until maybe they adjust and start giving them lower numbers. Minnesota hasn't been playing extremely fast, and their offense hasn't been great either. I probably don't want to really bet their overs until Towns is back. Both teams have been playing better defense. That's the only way I would look on the total. And you said it pretty good, Ian. This is not the point spread road that you want Atlanta in. Between the spread of -5 to -8, they're 1-4 against the spread. And that's pretty much kind of the same as this, but versus lesser competition, 45% when teams are less, 2-5 against the spread. And the Timberwolves, when they play that lesser competition, they've covered 2 times out of 3. So it's not really a number that I love with Atlanta, although they've been playing better than the Timberwolves. So right now, I'll go with the under.
All right, lean to the under. And by the way, Atlanta just played Minnesota at home on Monday on Martin Luther King Day, and they struggled to pull away from Minnesota. It took till very late in that game for the Hawks to finally pull away, and they did cover, but barely. And now they're going to play that same Minnesota team on the road, and they were laying 7 at home against Minnesota. Compare the two numbers. They were laying 7 at home against Minnesota on Monday. They're laying 6 now on the road at Minnesota. You tell me where the value is. That's exactly why I'm staying away from Atlanta. Not just because I don't trust them as road chalk, but they were just laying 7 at home on Monday. They're laying 6 on the road tonight. So to me, you're not getting any bargain here with the Hawks based on that adjustment. C-Mac, what do you think here? Atlanta, Minnesota.
I'm going to see these guys. The game time decisions with Gallinari, Hunter, and Reddish. I think 2 out of the 3 play. But if 2 out of the 3 sit, even with them coming back, I think the value's with the Wolves. It's them or pass. I think it's taking the points here and passing. And I think there's a little bit on the under. I think they played a little bit better defense. They were just lay defense at the beginning. Their overs were just flying over the T-Wolves. So I lean a little bit towards the under, and I think there's a little value with the T-Wolves. Like you said, Atlanta, that was a tight game until kind of the late towards the fourth, pulled away and won by 11. I think there's a little value at home. And there's not, I don't bet a lot with the T-Wolves. I'm trying to find a few spots, and with Karl-Anthony Towns, it's not easy to. It's not easy to back Minnesota without him in. But I think there's a little value with them at +6 here.
Yeah, these guys are just so erratic, especially some of their individual players. Like Malik Beasley is, up and down. Same with Russell and Rubio. I mean, they have some good games. Then they have some games. It's like, what the hell are you guys doing out there? That's what you get sometimes from the Minnesota Timberwolves right now throughout the course of the season to this point. We got the Battle of Texas here, Dallas and San Antonio here. Dallas, 2-point road favorites, 223.5 the total in this one. Dallas, a much-needed win in their last game. Over Indiana, 124-112. Good bounce back performance from the Mavericks. Mavericks team that's still, battling with the same guys. We've talked about this ad nauseum every Dallas game lately. It's still Dorian Finney-Smith, Josh Richardson, and Maxi Kleber, the main guys that are out still for Dallas. But still, they found a way against Indiana. And San Antonio, again, in one of these situations where they've been on the road quite a bit. Now they're returning home. They had a tough setback. Tough. They came out just in a game where Steph Curry just said, "I'm taking over. I'm gonna, get out of the gate strong against San Antonio the other night," and the Spurs just really had no answer. So I split with that one. I had the Spurs and I had the under against Golden State. Got 1-1 with that. So a tough night for the Spurs as they get drilled pretty handily by Golden State. So it's a bounce back spot for San Antonio, but returning home, I'm not sure it's a great bet on spot for them. So it's a game I've got conflicting arguments for with both of these teams. So it's not a game I got involved with as of right now. Probably won't at any point before tip off, at least. Skee, what do you think here with Dallas? And maybe I'd lean under if anything in this game because we've seen the pace slow down a little bit with San Antonio. Defense has gotten better. Dallas hasn't exactly been shooting the ball. And again, their offense after last year, it simply could not duplicate what they did last year. Nowhere to go but down for the Mavericks offensively after what they did last season. And we've kind of seen that here. So I'd lean a little bit to the under, but haven't bet it as of yet. Skee, what do you think here? Spurs, Mavs?
The guys that are out for Dallas, I mean, the last game, it was a good matchup against Indiana because I just thought it wasn't such a good situation for Indiana too. And kind of a spot where Dallas thrived in, but they've been missing these guys for a little bit. And San Antonio has been playing better basketball than them. Neither team has been necessarily great offensively, but defense is what's really winning them games. And like a lot of people know, a lot of my capping is how teams are doing recently and momentum and stuff like that. And I think the Spurs have that right now. So I like the San Antonio side. And I would agree with the total towards the under. I don't love the pace both teams are playing, but offense has not been as trustworthy as the defense. So the number I have for the game was 218.5, and I'll go under in San Antonio.
All right, under 222.5 is the current 223.5 actually is the current total here with the Spurs and the Mavericks. Again, you've seen a lot of travel for San Antonio. They had a 5-game road trip. They had a brief little pit stop at home to play 2 against Houston. Then they went on the road again with Portland and Golden State. So, a lot of games, a lot of travel, maybe adding up here for San Antonio. You could say the same about Dallas, though. Dallas, 3 road games, a home game, 2 road games, a home game, 2 road games, and now another road game. So they've had to travel a lot. So maybe it's a wash. And in that case, maybe this is not the fresh team versus the team that's traveled a lot, because it's not like Dallas is all that fresh. They've done a lot of road games and travel as well recently. C-Mac, what do you think here, Dallas, San Antonio?
I agree with Skee here. I'd look towards the under. The Mavs have been an under team all year. I've been surprised a little bit by their defense. Yep. That was with Porzingis out. I want to see kind of once he's back if that stays. But I still lean towards the under. The Spurs, I think it's 5 out of the last 6 have gone under. I like the under, and I like the Spurs a little bit, plus 2.5. I wish it was 4. I wish I get that 3.5, 4 over the 3.5, but I'd still lean Spurs back home. It was just a short trip. Beat the Blazers. It kind of got whipped by Golden State. But I'd back the Spurs here a little bit, and I definitely like that under 223.
Yeah, the under does make some sense to me. That's the way I was leaning toward in this game. I was closer on the total than I was the side. The under does make sense to me in this one. Oklahoma City, LA Clippers. We've got the Clippers 13-point home favorites here, 219.5 the total in this one. The LA Clippers certainly. You worry about this matchup a little bit for Oklahoma City, or at least I do going into this game. They have been good on the road, but not necessarily Oklahoma City as well against these really, really strong teams that have been on their schedule at times this year. We've seen Oklahoma City have a couple of instances where stepping up in class hasn't been all that good for them. They, blown out at Miami, blown out at Denver in their last game, 119-101. Although Denver was probably sitting on a good effort after, a couple of losses in a row, including the loss to Utah on the weekend. So definitely you got concerns about whether OKC can match up here with the Clippers. And, the Clippers are off back 3 straight point spread covers. They've won 5 in a row, 3-0 against the spread their last 3, all of them blowout victories. Sacramento twice, and then Indiana in between as well, 129-96. So the Clippers, again, when they've got that defense locked in, you can tell they're pretty difficult to score against. And that's the concern here that I've got more than anything with OKC. We know they're a bit of a limited offensive team, not a little bit. They are, I think, a limited offensive team at times. Where are the points going to come from if, and that's the key word here, if the Clippers bring the level of defense we've seen from them the last few games. They're also without Al, not that it's huge because I think Al Horford's on the downward slide of his career, but Al Horford is out tonight for the Oklahoma City Thunder, so that's going to put a lot more duress on Roby, Muscala, Darius Baisley, guys like that in the low post for this Thunder team going into this game. They'll probably need a big game out of our Hamilton kid, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, tonight if they're going to hang with the Clippers. I'd like to take the points with Oklahoma City, but I don't know. I don't know if I trust them to score enough against an elite defensive team, or a very good, at least, defensive team, which the Clippers are, and they have been playing defense the last few. So has me leaning slightly to the under, but as of right now, I'm passing on this game. Skee, what's your thoughts? Thunder, Clippers?
Yeah, Clippers have been playing better defense lately, and OKC, they're going to struggle to score. And because of it, because of that defense of the Clippers, I think they're going to try to play as fast as they can, try to get easy baskets. And that makes me nervous when I think about an under. But the under this year for them at home, I have the under. I must have messed that up. It's either the Clippers at home or OKC on the road, under 4-1-1. But that's the way I would look here. It's tough for me to see OKC scoring very many points. Shai would have to, like you said, erupt for a good amount to keep up with this Clippers team that's playing well. So it's a game that I'll ultimately pass on.
Yeah, I think it's tricky all around. It's a lot of points to be laying with the Clippers, but you worry about OKC's offense because Denver shut them down, and Clippers probably can take it one step further defensively even than the Nuggets can. Conor, what do you think here, Clippers and Thunder?
Yeah, I think, Skee, you're talking about, OKC, the unders on them on the road. Yeah.
Okay.
That 4-1, yeah. Man, this is a ton of points, but I've been watching these last few Clippers games. Their D looks great. They just been able to score at will against, not great competition, and that's who the Thunder are. Like you said, Alexander's got to score for them to do anything. I lean towards taking these points. I just think it's a ton, but that'd be my only lean. I'm going to pass on this game. I lean with the Thunder in 13, but I'm not going to play it.
Yeah, someone in the chat, by the way, I wanted to mention it because I saw it. I didn't get to it, but to answer it. But Raymond Reddington, Embiid over 26.5, and Jeremy Grant over 23.5. I got 23.5. Apparently, it's 24.5 now. The Jeremy Grant props, I've been on those almost every game in some form.
Oh yeah,
why not? He's been getting the minutes.
He's going to get his.
The Pistons, yeah, and he continues to produce for them. And then the prop numbers have been low on him, so I agree with that. Embiid makes some sense too, because again, we always say this when the Sixers play the Celtics: is that front court of Tyson, Williams, and company really going to contain him? I'm not so sure about that. So if you're looking Embiid over, I certainly personally wouldn't argue with that in that direction if that's the way you want to go with that. Next up, we've got New York, Sacramento. We've got the Kings, 4.5 point home favorites here, 218.5 the total. I know New York's on after a huge win for them against Golden State. Give them credit last night. Great performance from the Knicks, waving the Canadian flag with pride last night. RJ Barrett, great game from him for the Knicks against the Warriors last night. That's what we expect from him, and hopefully he can keep delivering those kind of performances for Knicks fans. I know it's a back-to-back. They're off a huge win. You think they're tired a little bit, maybe a little let down. But how the hell can anyone lay 4 with Sacramento? Holy shit. I mean, how the hell can we do that? I mean, really, that's the question you got to ask yourself. I mean, can we really lay 3.5, 4.5, or 4.5 now in some spots with Sacramento here in this game? I certainly can't. I've been riding Sacramento overs, and finally I got bumped off the train the other night with the Clippers-Kings game, which stayed under the total. But I'm certainly not just all of a sudden going to knee-jerk and bet under with Sacramento. But at the same point in time, New York's been a good under team. So it's a little bit tricky. I'd lean over. I think Sacramento's got every reason to push the pace. I mean, they got the Knicks on the second night of back-to-back, force them to have to defend, force them to have to fly up and down the court. I think if you're Luke Walton and the Kings, you've got to push pace, Lots of
Yeah.
fast break points at every opportunity you can get. Try to wear down the Knicks, who are on back-to-back here on the road. So for that reason, I lean over. And from a side perspective, it's you either take New York in spite of the maybe a little bit of a dubious spot here. In spite of that, I think either take New York or you pass in this game. Skee, what's your thoughts? Kings, Knicks.
Yeah, I would agree. You don't want Sacramento as a favorite. They're 1-3 against the spread this year as a favorite. And Knicks, I mean, they covered their one time on the second of a back-to-back. And I took a look at, I look at the Knicks. They've been playing the best defense over the last 5 games. And Sacramento is not playing a lick of defense. I don't think the Knicks offense has been a little better lately. I don't think it's that far off from where Sacramento has been. And New York is a much better rebounding team, or they have been a much better rebounding team. So I think they have pretty fair advantages. I think it should be more of a pick-em type game. So I would lean towards New York. And a stat that I have that backs them a little bit, just teams that were on the road and they had to travel and play another road game and with no rest. They're 9-4 against the spread this year, and they're 9-4 to the under. So I agree with both of those moves, and that's the way that I play this game.
All right, like an Knicks, like an under the total as well. And another thing too is that Skee just said it, 9-4 against the spread for teams' second night of back-to-back games. That for the longest time for years. And I remember when I first started handicapping, the knee-jerk thought from everybody in the betting community was the second night of back-to-backs, it's hard to bet these teams. Well, now the odds makers are doing a better job factoring that in every single game for teams in these spots and in these situations. So now there's actually an evening of the playing field. It used to be you could hit a damn good percentage against the spread, just fading teams left and right when playing second of back-to-back on the road. You can't do that anymore. That's factored in.
Yeah.
Skee mentioned the results pointed out. You're actually winning money. You're earning. You're profitable this year with teams on second night of back-to-back on the road. So keep that in mind. That's how the sports betting landscape, one of many things that has changed over the last 10 plus years, but that is definitely one right there. The theory of you just got to blindly bet against the teams on the second of back-to-back on the road. It's just not the profitable endeavor it was 10 plus years ago betting NBA basketball. It's just not. And the results bear that out. C-Mac, what do you think here with New York and Sacramento?
Yeah, I think Skee, you're right. I think this was, in my eyes, is more of a pick 'em that I have. I'm Sacramento. I don't think should be laying 4.5. New York's young team. I mean, back to back. These guys, they didn't have to travel far. Just from Golden State, Sacramento, that's a short trip. I like the 4.5 with the Knicks, and the total. Like knee jerk right away, you think over, but like Skee, you gave those numbers, and I was looking at it earlier. The Knicks are just such an under team. I'm going to stay off this total. I don't know. I think it go either way. I think this one could go over depending on the Kings' pace. They can just get erratic and run up and down, and I could see it staying under. So the Knicks dictating what they're doing. So nothing on the total, but I like the Knicks with the 4.5.
I did want to mention one more thing. I'll say if you like the under, you probably want to get involved sooner just because Austin Rivers is doubtful. And once he's ruled out, that line is probably going to go down some because they expect him to score some points for that New York team. And if you like the Knicks, you probably want to wait a little bit because at the same time when that news is announced, you might get a 5 or you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely. That's a good point. Austin Rivers, you're going to lose some secondary offense without him if he doesn't play, and that could affect this total. I think Sacramento's going to try to run up and down a lot, even more than usual. They always do, but they're going to try to do that even more. But the problem is they're running into a team that, as Steve mentioned, they're playing as good a defense as anybody in the last several games. This Knicks team, they're playing quite well, and that might be enough to keep it under the total. Julius Randle stepped up. We're waiting for this guy grow up, get more consistent. And he's been a lot better as of late for the New York Knicks. And that's what it is with this team. I mean, Tom Thibodeau he got a young group here, and he's trying to get them rolling. Obi Toppin, of course, is banged up a bit. You got to be patient with him a little bit. The draft pick out of Dayton, but you got a potential to get him going down the road. I think with more games under his belt and experience, he'll start playing better. Now, there's some hope for this team to be a very competitive team all season long. I think that's probably their ceiling. They're not a playoff team yet, I don't think. But
Nah.
I think they're in a situation where they're still going to be competitive. And I think from a point spread perspective, as they've kind of shown so far this season, you'll be able to cash some tickets in the right spot here with this Knicks team more often than not. Last game on the card is a good one to wrap up the Friday night slate. Denver taking on Phoenix. We've got the Suns 1.5 point home favorites, 220.5 for total in this one. Phoenix Suns certainly have had a little bit of a all over the place kind of schedule and regimen the last week. Remember, they got blown out by Washington, and then they were off for a week due to some games that were postponed. They came back to play against Memphis on Martin Luther King Day and lost 108-104, and then they played at Houston, won 109-103. Bounced back to get the victory. But again, as we talked about with Houston earlier on the show, a depleted Rockets team, still don't have John Wall yet. And the Suns were able to take care of business there in that game. But now they're back home for the first time since January 6th. So it's been 16 days, since the Phoenix Suns have played a home game after that 5-game road trip is when they beat Toronto 123-115. So this is a little bit of a tricky scheduling spot here, as always. You got to be concerned when you're playing that first game after a lengthy time away from home. Denver got back on track with a blowout win over Oklahoma City after the loss against the Utah Jazz the other night. Really, when you look at Denver, guys, I mean, there's nothing really that you can say, wow, this team's had some bad losses. They already lost to Phoenix on New Year's Day, 106-103. Their other losses were Dallas in overtime. There's not really any shame in that. They lost to Brooklyn on the road, 122-116, and that was that big comeback win. Remember, Denver was up big at halftime. Brooklyn came all the way back and won that game by 6. And then they lost to a red-hot Utah team that looks unstoppable when they're in the kind of zone they're in right now. So Denver doesn't have really bad losses. They've definitely got the situational in their favor here. I'd probably have to lean a little to the Nuggets here, plus 1.5 in this game. Skee, what's your thoughts? Denver, Phoenix.
Well, Michael Porter Jr. is going to play tonight. I just saw that. And, you talked about Phoenix being away for a long time and coming back. Usually that's the flat spot, but they had a couple games postponed. So it's just, I feel kind of weird about this one. And they've been playing good versus competition this year. 6-1 against the spread. That's what I have for them. And but Denver has been playing better lately. And so it's kind of tough for me. If I have to play this one, I will lean more towards Denver. And Denver's been over every game on the road tonight. They get Michael Porter Jr. in. That's more points, less defense. I wouldn't look any other way.
I agree with that. I think this could be an over here because I actually took Phoenix Houston over the other night and it was on pace. And then we just got a slowdown at the end. And then I'm looking to see if, Houston is going to foul at the end. And for some reason they waved the white flag and threw in the towel and said, you know what, we're not going to foul here down 6 with 15 or 20 seconds. I couldn't believe it. Just a foul once at least, but nope, didn't happen. You got to remember sometimes NBA, the how long we keep fouling the opponent when we're trailing late in the game. It doesn't last as long as college. College, they'll foul easily 8-10 points down, 30 seconds to go. Conor and I know that all too well. And it can throw things off the side in a total perspective. But nevertheless, there was good pace in that Phoenix-Houston game, good offense. We know, and now with, as you mentioned, Michael Porter, you're right. He is a shooter. He's a straight-up offensive force, but he doesn't play much at the other end of the basketball court. So that definitely would be a plus for the over if he's in the lineup tonight for the Nuggets. C-Mac, what's your thoughts here with Denver Phoenix?
Yeah, I'd watch with Porter if he's going to play or not. That's a big one towards this total. I've been big Phoenix unders at home, but tricky spot. First, that long trip, cancel games. This is just a tricky spot for me. Denver's been playing better. I thought they'd start playing better. I mean, the first week.
Porter's in. Just confirmed. I got an alert.
Okay.
Porter's in. And look what we're seeing. Denver's getting hit right now. +1, pick them. Look at people are betting Denver now. I better bet Denver now if I like that side. But I don't know what it's doing with the total. It looks like the total is total's starting to go up. I'm seeing 220.5 at South Point. It was 219.5, 220. So yeah, there we go. There's the over money with the news that looks like Porter is going to be playing tonight for the Denver Nuggets. So there we go.
He's in.
Yep.
Lean over. That just bringing up his name. like Skee mentioned, especially he's in, I lean a little bit over. Like I said, I like the Suns with unders, but first game back from a trip,
Yeah, that too.
I think their points
Whoa.
could be scored here. We'll see. I lean a little bit towards the over 220 and get it now. It might go up a point, maybe point and a half with Porter.
Yeah, people say that coming off a road trip, sometimes you don't have your shooting legs. I find a lot of times you don't have your defense as intense or locked in, and you're not contesting shots as well as you should be. So I think, honestly, the road trip coming home, sometimes the defense gets negatively impacted even more than the shooting. So that's something to factor in maybe tonight as well. All right, that's the Friday NBA card, guys. We've gotten through all 11 games. We did it in an hour, so great pace. We kept a good brisk pace on this show, so good stuff. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it. Conor, let's get a word from our sponsors before we get to Best Bet.
Oh, yeah, go to mybookie.ag, hit promo code PubSports. If you use your debit or credit, you get 50% off. If you use Bitcoin, you get 100% off. So you put 1,000, they give you 1,000. And just minimum, you got to put in $100. So put in $100. And go to bulksupplements.com, hit promo code PubSports. You get 5 and 10% off your order. Get all the creatine, protein, vitamins, all that stuff. Vitamin D for the coronavirus, zinc, vitamin C, all that stuff at bulksupplements.com. So check it out. Support us, support the sponsors.
All right, there we go. Good stuff. Let's go to Best Bets. Let's start with you, Skee. What do you got for a Best Bet on Friday?
I'm gonna go to I'll keep it in Texas, and I'll go to San Antonio. I think that the wrong team is favored in this one. I don't think that it's a good spot for Dallas. San Antonio's been playing much better basketball, playing good versus competition. I think they step it up here and win this game. So give me the Spurs.
Win the game, and the good news is you get a little added bonus because you can get 2.5 with San Antonio as well. So San Antonio plus 2.5 against Dallas. That'll be Skee Profit's best bet. Conor Mac, where are we going? Best bet for the NBA card tonight.
I like that one. That's one of mine. I'm going back to this one. I said it earlier. I'm taking the over in the Heat Raptor game, over 221. I think it gets over tonight. Especially, there's still got to watch a few people come playing, but I think it gets over 221 tonight. So that's my best bet.
All right, there we go. Conor Mac looking at the over Miami Toronto over 221 is his best bet. If I knew if Turner was in, because I had Orlando, Indiana, either Indiana -4 or over the total in that game as a best bet caliber wager for me, but I don't know if he's in yet or not. I'm still waiting. I'm refreshing. I'm waiting because it's going to determine where I go in that game.
Who?
Miles Turner for the Pacers.
Yeah, still unknown.
Yeah, still unknown. So that's critical for me because, like I said, if he's in, I like Indiana. If he's out, I like the over. Simple as that. And they played way faster without him against Dallas the other night. So that's a big influencer. And I don't know his status, so I've got to stay out of that for a best bet. So I'm going to go to Chicago. They've been good to me. They're getting 3 points against Charlotte. Charlotte can't be laying points. Chicago's been a road warrior. Sorry, Bulls, for going against you the other night with Houston. Let's get it back tonight. Chicago +3 against Charlotte. I think they can win that game outright. 3 points is a bonus. Chicago +3 against Charlotte. That'll be my best bet for this Friday card. And that'll wrap up the show. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Appreciate the support. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We had almost 100 views again today live during the show. Very much appreciated. We're doing this show, reminder, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Throughout the rest of the NBA season, we'll be here right till July when they do the NBA Finals with this closing time show. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Skee, Conor, and I are back on Sunday. NFL Conference Championship Sunday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. We'll do the closing time NFL show Sunday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific before the Packers and Bucks and Bills and Chiefs. We're looking forward to those championship games. We'll break them down for you Sunday right here on Pub Sports Radio. For Skee Profit and Conor Mac, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Friday night. Enjoy the games and good luck on the NBA board. And we'll
Peace.
Yeah, we'll see you guys later. Ian has to end it, though.
He's frozen. Peace.